right, we're uploading and then all right, we are live. Welcome to today's session of Collective Sessions when we're discussing the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on us as citizens of the USA, and more specifically Illinois as well as other regions. We're going to do a comparative analysis and see how everybody is coping with this pandemic that has led to drastic loss of life. It has had substantial economic and social impacts on people. And right now, we're hitting a second wave is what it seems to be appearing. And pretty much a vaccine is now in its production, it's been tested. And we're just gonna have an honest, open, candid conversation surrounding the COVID pandemic and how it's impacting people that we may know, one-on-one, or it just in general, like what we're reading, observing, and so forth. So on today's panel, we have Edward Hanna, we have David Rich, we have Candace Carey, and we're looking at the different situations and the different lockdown modes that we have across the country. We're going to compare it to a few other countries. I know in Australia, there's pretty much not a lockdown in place right now. Everything seems pretty open. Very few cases of COVID are apparent, but that's in stark contrast with me, who lives here in Illinois, and whereas schools have been pretty close to being closed or remotely operating, as are many workplaces. Big business is open, but small business has been impacted severely. So these are all things we're going to have to look at, the tenancy, landlording issues, consumerism, and so forth. Also the health implications and how hospitals are managing with COVID. So I'm going to take it over to you, David, and I'll let you elaborate one-on-one about, a few things that are going on with your life personally and what you're seeing and what your concerns are.
All right, well, thank you. Good to be back, guys. Good to see you all. So both Candace and I work in the restaurant industry, and so we've been directly affected by this. It's probably the industry that's been hit the hardest. They suggest anywhere from 30 to 40% of the restaurants that are in lockdown right now probably won't open up again at the end of all of this. So that's a massive consequence. The restaurant industry, even though it's more of an entertainment industry and a luxury type industry, it's not something that's considered necessary, is extremely important to culture. Food is important to culture, and it's important to people's way of thinking about life and dealing with life. People like to go to restaurants, people like to go to bars. It's a social hub for a lot of people. So it's really important that we focus on keeping this industry afloat, especially the small mom and pop places like where I work. Because people really prefer that. I mean, who goes to the Olive Garden to sit at the bar and hang out with their chums? Nobody. Okay, you want the more locally owned places. Anyway, I talked to my bosses last night. I worked last night, thank God, about some of the more direct effects it had on them. Asked them if they wanted to come on the program. They said they are very excited that we're having this conversation. Unfortunately, they wouldn't be able to really put the time aside just in case they did get some business, some catering or some carryouts or whatever. But basically, I know that Tina, one of the owners of the restaurant, is trying hard to find all these grants and loans and stuff like that. And she said she's getting denied a lot. Something about one of them asked for the sales from July and August, which were her busiest 2 months because of outdoor seating. And it's an unfair comparison to the rest of the year and what's happening, that kind of thing. So like some of these things sound like kind of rigged towards like the bigger businesses and that kind of thing. And another thing too is just, doing some reading over the last several weeks, divorce rates are up, suicide rates are up, overdose rates are up, domestic abuse rates are up. And I'm not hearing politicians talk about these things at all. I mean, I'm not that I'm fully attended to, I don't listen to Pritzker every day at 2:30, to be honest with you. I try to, but I'm not hearing anybody talking about these huge negative effects that these lockdowns are having on people. We're social creatures. We need to hang out with other people. We need to be touched by other people and loved by other people and talk to other people in person. Okay, it's extremely important to our survival and our evolution as individuals. And so this is having a tragic effect across the board, and nobody seems to care. I shouldn't say that. That's a bad generalization. But I'm not hearing the politicians talk about it. So Ed, what have you found about these sorts of things? What say you?
Well, I'm looking at it from a really wide angle because I have a bunch of businesses. My real estate business literally went into the toilet. My tax business got a break because they extended the deadline from April 15th to July 15th. So that made things easier. I was supposed to do 2 lectures in Arizona and California. I flew out there the day before they both went on re-lockdown, killed both of those. My coffee shop in Mount Prospect, gone. There's no way it's reopening. It's done for good. In fact, I moved most of the stuff out of there already. And that's what I'm hearing from a lot of people. People don't even know too that, for example, most of the COVID-19 policies that we're following came from a high school kid's science project. And her dad helped her with it. And then her dad helped spread it. The idea of how good this was, masking and social distancing and stuff like that. Now, I do agree that it would be very good for people who are at risk. In other words, of course, if somebody has a compromised immune system, you don't want to be on top of them, breathing all over them, even if you don't have COVID-19, But look at all the people in old folks' homes and retirement homes or people in hospitals that now they're in desperate situations because they don't even have loved ones, can't even come by and say hi to them and keep their spirits up. Right. So masking, you got better do it or you're going to kill grandma. Right now, grandma is in agony in the hospital right now because she can't even see her relatives too. Yeah. If nothing else, then they should have tablets. Give them tablets where they can video chat. But no, they don't, unless you're really rich or unless you're in a very forward-thinking home, which isn't that many these days. They're more concerned with money. You could see nothing but fallback everywhere. And if you think about it, how they molded our thinking by combining the flu and pneumonia deaths in May of last year, they combined them with COVID-19. The COVID-19 death totals include flu and pneumonia. They don't have a proper way to test anyway. I just text somebody who had an argument she wanted to tell me about what I was saying sounded like propaganda. So I hurried up and texted her an article from NIH, who America looks highly upon, saying that they do the COVID-19 tests at 40 to 45 amplifications. Then I text her Fauci saying in a video that if you go over 30 amplifications, the tests are useless. Wait, we didn't put those two things together? Right. Nobody is putting those two things together. So that's why you have Elon Musk taking 4 tests in one day and getting 2 positives and 2 negatives. Some movie star tests her left nostril and her right nostril and gets 2 different results. That's why we're getting so many false positives and so many false negatives. And yet we're relying on these people. Why? Where is our common sense gone? Nobody questions anything anymore. It's also our responsibility if we don't stand up and say something because we're afraid that someone might talk bad about us or someone might put me down or someone might call me a conspiracy theorist or something. When all I'm talking about is NIH, that's who we're listening to. Fauci, that's who we're listening to. I'm bringing the same evidence. How am I a conspiracy theorist? I'm just presenting, just like Fauci said, don't wear masks because, and he told all the reasons why not to wear masks. Then when he said wear masks, somebody asked him, does that mean that the reasons you gave for not wearing masks aren't valid? He wouldn't answer.
Right.
And that's why people don't know this, but you know why we have a lot more flus and problems like that in the late fall and winter? Because people are masking up every year when they wear their scarves or they wear and they're forced to breathe in their own nonsense. And that's why that is a more unhealthy season. If people got more fresh air, they wouldn't be in that situation as much. But now we're being told, now you don't even want fresh air in the summer. I see people riding bikes. I mean, pedaling hard, wearing a mask. What is, I mean, there's no one around them even. What are they doing?
Right.
They're like brainwashed. And that, yet they're going to say, I'm a conspiracy theorist or something like that. And I'm not even, and I don't even present controversial stuff. We need to
So
start.
Ed, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
I agree with everything you're saying, and I've had people. I have PhDs in biophysics on my show that have talked about the true ineffectiveness of mask wearing. The WHO came out a long time ago, for decades, said wearing masks is not good. All of a sudden, magically, it's required. You know, I understand what you're saying, but going back to what you said about, like, you know, you have the NIH saying one thing, another expert in the field saying the exact opposite or something contradictory to it. Who would you personally trust for the information on this then, if you're getting contradictory information?
Well, sometimes the problem is you got the same people contradicting themselves. That's
Right.
even worse.
Oh yeah.
But it does. That is a good question. And really, what people should be doing is trying to take in everything. And now, granted, that's a little harder, and we'd all rather have just some sound bites, and we just, you know, I don't want to trouble my brain with too much thinking. But no, if we study more, discover more, and then we'll be able to make better decisions. That's why you hear all these people saying what communism is and what capitalism is, and then when you listen to their definitions, they don't even know what the hell they're talking about. Then, you know, I got an argument today with some guy about, he said the whole world's going fascist, and when I explained, socialist, and when I explained what socialism was and what fascism was, he says, "Oh, I better go change my post."
Oh,
why don't you read what it is before you post? You know, it's just, you know, it's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. It's unfortunate. I mean, on the capitalist socialist thing, I've had plenty of experience debating people over that. Just last night, it came up at the bar. And again, like you said, people not really understanding what the definitions of these two things are. And they keep arguing from a straw man fallacy. Basically, they've set up this different definition of these things that is not a part of the traditions of these concepts. And they just start attacking that as if it somehow means something else. Anyway, there's a guy last night who decided that the whole impetus behind Black Lives Matter is just they all want free stuff and they don't want to work. I told him to shut up or get out of my bar. Because I'm not having that crap in my bar. Sorry, it's not my bar is not an open forum. But it's hard to figure out who to trust and who not to trust. Who has the proper information, who doesn't have the proper information. But I think you're right to just take time to scour all the information, or as much as you can, the opposing sides, and just see which ones make the most sense to you. And always remember that consensus has nothing to do with truth. Just going to leave that there.
A lot of people also do question why small businesses have had to close, why big businesses with trafficking large amounts of people are allowed to stay open. These are just a few questions that people have in their minds. Specifically, corporations are also talking about the number of clients they secure, how much money they're making, and so forth. But yet, when it comes to their workers, we're suffering as a result of COVID. And these are people that are putting hard hours into their work, even though they're not working in offices. They have their lives taking a toll. It's putting more stress on families, working longer hours because they're being told that their job is on the line. And then we have kids that are going to school at home, teachers putting more hours in. It's a difficult situation for all people around as it is, and nobody's getting a break in all of this, and this is taking a toll on people's mental health, their relationships, and so forth. So even when it comes to people that are landlording and the tenancy situation, there's a huge pressure on people to try to make their payments. Some people have lost their jobs. People have family that's impacted as a result of COVID. There are people that have had COVID that haven't even been able to get a break as a result. So what do you think about all of this? Should we be dealing with people on a more compassionate level, or do people equal profit over everything? What do you say? So I'm going to ask Ed to weigh in on that, or Candace.
I mean, compassion, moral standard for me is first. You know, if I've also been a landlord before, and I've had to make tough decisions on whether to keep them or evict them. But, you know, you have to collect all the data, like David was saying and Ed has said, these are unprecedented times. And something like this hasn't happened since this, you know, the Spanish flu. And I think we need to have compassion. I really do. We need to see everyone as human beings, and we treat people the way that we would want to be treated if we were in that position. If we can afford it. I think the government is working as fast as they can to release the second round of the CARES Act or Stimulus Act, which I'm staying in good hopes that something like that will be funded this week or before the holidays, which would put money back into the economy. It would help people that are on unemployment, that have lost their jobs, and it would put money back into the businesses so they can reapply for paycheck protection forgiveness, which, you know, will help. I really think that we need to take all of this in consideration. Corporations, I mean, it's kind of hard to go and to redirect or position an executive who's over $1 billion corporation like Coca-Cola or Rolex or Mercedes or something like that. But I think the money that has been put back into the economy should be suffice for them, and they shouldn't be greedy. I'm not saying that they are, but, you know, money in sight. There's a saying that I've heard before. There's someone who said, you know, my grandmother would say, money in sight calls no fight. So basically that means sometimes if you see $1 in your hand, then, you know, they'll take that before, you know, they'll take the money. But I'm different with that. If I had to make a decision on compassion or profit, then I would definitely put compassion first because of what's going on these days with the COVID-19 situation. And then I would let everything fall into place. I'm a really big believer on that, treating people with respect and dignity.
But people don't give enough campaign donations, so therefore we have to listen to the corporations first. Right.
You know, you know what? Then I guess that's the beast of the business. That's the business, and right. you take all that in consideration. If you're going to go into politics or whatever, you know, job that you decide to go into, then I guess those are the things that we have to deal with. But not all corporations are the same. Not all corporations are the same.
No, but again, I mean, the difference between being an incorporated and being a big corporation is.
Oh yeah. I don't want to. I have a corporation too, but mine's a S corp, and it's a little tiny thing, you know. Yeah. It's not.
So is mine. Yeah.
I'm not bribing politicians, you know.
Neither am I. I couldn't afford it if I tried, but neither am I. And even if I, you know, no, I think all of it is wrong. You know, I believe in karma, and I just can't sleep at night if I were to do business like that. I like my rest, and I like to have a clear conscience, and I want my blessings to keep rolling and my way. So I can be a blessing to others. So that's just everyone's, you know, standard and moral respects are different. and you just have to respect that, and then go from there. But with my business, talking about what David says, I am in the restaurant business. I'm also an actress, but I do moonlight in the restaurant business, which is what we do a lot. I also work in a law office, but it's not as flexible as I, would like. I can't just get up and leave a corporation, a big, law office as quickly as I can ask for, 3 months off as, working as a bartender, a manager. But here, our job, our place has been shut down. We're on South Beach, and we get a lot of customers, and because of COVID, a lot of people are not traveling to South Beach anymore. The cruise ships have been completely shut down. Carnival Cruise, Royal Cruise Lines, which we've gotten a lot of people coming in off the cruise ships. And so my business, our business, is just completely taking a huge loss. Of course, we're thankful that we're able to deliver food, but then you have a lot of waitresses, young waitresses, some of my girls, they depend on the tips, the nightly tips that they would get, and they depend on their paycheck so they can take care of their family. So they're were suffering at the beginning, but I think everyone has found a way to be, to persevere and to show their resilience through this time. And found ways to survive and connect amongst their peers for support, emotional and financial support. And so I'm hopeful in that. That's all I have to say.
In pandemic,
Go ahead.
Profiteers Exposed found that 17 out of 25 most profitable U.S. corporations, including Microsoft, Johnson & Johnson, Facebook, Pfizer, and Visa, were expected to make more than $85 billion in 2020, more than previous years. So now they're talking about a possible pandemic profit tax. And how do you think that should work? Do you think they should be placing something like that? Do you feel that that's fair, that money should be regenerated back and given to the people? What do you say, Ed?
Well, Nick Hanauer, I follow him on Facebook. He put it perfect. He's, just so you know, he's a billionaire. So he's not just talking like, I wish I was rich too. He is rich. He's one of the first non-family members to invest in Amazon. And he said, he's the guy who pushed the Seattle $15 an hour minimum wage. And he said, really, us corporations and rich people need to pay more and give more, or they're going to come for us with pitchforks. And that's the name of his blog, or his video blog, is Pitchforks. And what he said is, people don't realize it, but the masses are who creates the jobs, not the big shots. He said, I'll tell you how. For example, if I make 3,000 times what you make, when you and 2,999 other people go buy a hamburger, do I buy 3,000 hamburgers? No. So who's creating all the business? Who's creating, when they all go buy a car, I might buy a better car than them, but I'm not going to buy the equivalent of 3,000 cars. So people make up the economy. People are what make everything work. But yet ever since probably around Reagan's time, we've converted all that thinking to like, just give the power away. So, because, it's too much for me anyway. I'd rather someone else just take care of me. And they just basically give away everything that they have, which is crazy. I mean, that's not how it was designed to work. That's not how reality works. But that's what we've become. We've become a bunch of people that just want to be complacent, watch TV, drink a beer, and have a great day. I don't want any responsibility. When responsibility is not a bad thing, it actually helps you become better and become more capable to handle challenges that come in the future.
Right. I mean, it's a good point that, people should participate more in, local, in policies concerning how they're governed themselves. I mean, that's what a democracy is, from the federal level down to local levels. And it's kind of, it's frustrating to hear people so dismissive of politics. I understand that politics is very frustrating in its current state, but the whole politics is also very important because politics goes back to ancient Greece and the whole notion of like just people being involved in the government that governs them. And then, you know, that there's that saying from Germany from World War II, and this is a bit extreme of an example, but it exemplifies the point. You know, first they came for the gypsies and I didn't say anything. And then they came for, and he goes down this list and said, and then he came for me and there was nobody there left to protect me. That kind of thing is like when you isolate yourself from the political process, whatever happens to you due to the political process, you have less to say about it because you didn't participate in the first place. Does that make sense? I mean, if you want to be, if you want to hold the government accountable, and if you want things to happen a certain way in your society, you have to participate in the system, in the political process, one way or another. And like, politics can be very nasty, but the essence of politics is not all this, you know, slander and bad talk or lying or anything else. The essence of politics is creating policy for a society to run by. Very simple and very important. So that's all.
I agree with Candace. I think the holidays are coming up. The government should start doing something more about the stimulus. I don't know why it's something that they've been skirting around for some time now. We keep hearing that there's action, but really, I think people are becoming more and more bleak. They're becoming more negative. I mean, I myself, I ran a campaign back in about July. It spanned through October, and then now we're into December, but I'm just feeling the street sentiment is more and more negative towards things. I do feel like people and their fears surrounding the vaccine is also increased, and you know, I mean, people are very, very fearful these days. Like, what will a post-COVID-19 world look like is what a lot of people do talk about. It's a conversation that every single person is having, and it's even young children that are talking about this. Young kids are just so frustrated right now. They want to meet their friends. They want to go back and play. And I really pity people with young kids through this whole process, because it's most difficult to handle a child with that much energy that can't really be out and about interacting socially. So I'd sort of question how or what psychological effects would be on them overall. And then just seeing a child, a baby, wear a mask, and knowing that this child is being raised in this sort of environment, or being exposed. I do wonder if they're going to grow up more resilient, or whether you know, that they'll live in more fear or a different sort of behavior response as compared to other children of their age. So these are all a few things that I question myself. And what do you say, Richard? David Rich, sorry.
That's okay. I've been called worse. Yeah, no, the whole perturbation and the interruption of socializing at the young age is definitely a concern. You know, I mean, these are your formative years, and when you learn how to like socialize with other people, which is probably the main skill you're going to have for the rest of your life, is how to get along. And so, I mean, I'm not wholly worried that we're gonna, like, you know, start, you know, creating, you know, a greater number of sociopaths or anything like that. But I am concerned about just how kids are gonna, like, again, just the dent in the time span of socializing at the formative years, and what negative things could come from it. You know, and I know that there's I know a couple of teenagers that are in high school that they have their classes all online right now, or at least it's a hybrid, I think. But like, I know one was talking the other day about they have their gym class is online, like it's through Zoom or whatever. Okay, I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like, where do you run? I mean, what do you do? He said it's a lot of calisthenics, like, you know, jumping jacks and stuff like that. But he said people are like scamming it, and they're sitting in their chair and they're just doing this. So the teacher thinks that they're doing that, which is laughable and awful all at the same time. I mean, it's hysterical what teenagers will try to get away with. I know I got away with my fair share, but it's just so that, I mean, there's the cheating and shenanigans and they're trying to cut corners because it's not actual. I mean, it's very odd. And I wonder what's going to happen due to it later on. And I hopefully, the human race, is nothing if it's not resilient. I mean, we tend to like overcome things pretty well. And so hopefully a lot of creativity and innovation will come from this suffering. I'm hoping. I mean, that's my guess. Good things will come from it, Phoenix from the flames kind of thing.
Not only that, but if you look at it, taking off of that, the kids are not only are they very bored, but now we're subjecting them to like 7-8 hours a day of blue light from their. Now I have gotten my kids.
That's interesting.
Both of my daughters have blue blockers, but the average person doesn't know about that. So the average kid is being punished under these circumstances. But the other thing that you got to look at is people are like trying to like avoid germs. You can't avoid germs. Your body is meant to come in contact with germs. That helps build your immune system. And when you totally, like there's some people who literally take antibiotics just to get the germs out of their body. They're killing their flora in their digestive system. Where's everybody getting their information? They just, because they're scared, fear.
Yes.
They just accept any old thing and just act like robots to just like, I'd rather not be responsible. It all keeps boiling back to that. People don't remember this, but if you read in our history books, each month, everybody gathered up in your little town at the town forum. And at that town forum, we discussed things and argued about stuff. And then we told our politicians what they should do. Where is that?
Right.
Where is America?
Right. That's what a democracy is supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, the blue light, I agree. I've been eating a lot of carrots, which I think is helping, sitting at my desk, gnawing down on some carrots, which, if anyone lives with me would find that quite annoying sometimes, but it is what it is. But yeah, the blue light is a thing. It really is. And our children that are taking homeschooling via the internet, that's not good for their eyes. It really isn't. So I'm just concerned about the after effects of all this as well. Even the vaccine. What are the side effects? You have a runny nose or runny behind, you can have both. It's just a lot of ifs out there. I just think that if we just prepare ourselves and then we go into a healthy point of view, and we have everything we need around us to help us, to keep us. God has given us everything we've needed from the trees and from the earth. So we just tap into that and just learn how to take a lot of vitamin C, vitamin D3. If you don't have any sun, take some vitamin D, zinc, get a lot of sleep, and go out there and breathe some fresh air. Sweating is really good. And Dr. what's his name? Fauci, they've told us what to do as far as, a lot of doctors. We have a doctor that's coming on the show at Justice Chicago after this, and he gives us all, good, nice nuggets on what vitamins to take and what natural things that we can eat. So I'm more on that. So I think if we follow that, we'll be fine. And as far as I think being healthy is more important than, the dollar bill, the dinero, de l'argent. Our health is very important, and protecting our family right now is very important. So, and I think we're doing that. We're doing that with our discussion, and the word would get out, and as soon as reparations come through, I have hope for the future and for our government. I think we're doing a lot of great things here, especially in Chicago.
I know I myself, I've always tried to focus on food and just taking more turmeric in the winter months, more honey. ginger-based products and so forth, because I myself, I mean, I'm finding my body getting more and more stiff just by staying inside. I mean, I'm not getting enough movement, and it's harder in the winter months. So I'm making sure that I'm taking measures to take care of myself, have bath and bath salts, and, take that time for myself, my needs, because it's just so important to take care of yourself, make time, create time. It's difficult where we're managing only a certain amount of time. And in that, we feel the pressures of work and so forth. We're being told we need to do more, we need to give more. But I'm wondering what sort of labor measures are being in place for people that need to recover and recuperate, because it's a huge toll on people as it is. And without people, companies cannot thrive. I think that is so important for, but different workplaces have their measures. I mean, there are some workplaces that I know of that are helping people in terms of like giving time if you need to, or reset your schedule, and then they'll, work with you so that you can manage your children and so forth. But it's just exhausting, right? I feel like people aren't getting that break, and that's really unfortunate. But during the winter times, it's just harder to get out. I think it's so important to get out. And unfortunately, people have become more and more. I mean, I'm finding myself during social distancing, I've started to realize how many friendships I had were so flaky and they automatically cut off, but I'm finding that I'm better off myself without certain people. And then you find out who's legit, who's not, and who you need around you in these times, right? So, I mean, in some ways it's been beneficial. I mean, I know a lot of people say that they've been social distancing from before the pandemic. I mean, there's certain attitudes and behaviors and changes and modifications or productivity that has come about as well. So it's not an all negative situation. I'm not going to give it that, but I do feel for the people that are really, really suffering, struggling with family members that are sick in all of this. It's just very, very difficult. I feel like the health system here wasn't equipped to handle this situation. And that's really unfortunate, because I myself used to think that the USA is prime for everything. And it really disappointed me in some ways. I think there's a lot of room for improvement. And I'm going to give it away to Ed to talk a bit more about what he feels about the situation in those regards.
Well, most of the people that we consider some of the greatest geniuses throughout history have said food, fresh air, and exercise are the best medicine. Now, a lot of people, when it comes to this COVID-19 vaccine, these also don't realize that if you look, you could check to see if I'm a liar. This is what I tell people. Their stated goal, all 5 companies that are producing vaccines, their stated goal is to mitigate symptoms. Not to cure COVID-19, it's to mitigate symptoms. What? But everybody outside thinks that they're creating this COVID vaccine to cure people. They're not. Sorry. You can get that out of your head, because they probably can't. Like it's a coronavirus, just like the common cold. We've been working for 50 years on a cold vaccine. Look how good we've done. Look at the flu vaccine that we've had for a long time. And yet every year we have anywhere from 20 to 80,000 flu deaths. And nobody says a word. It doesn't matter. And there's bigger health concerns, whether it come to alcoholism, smoking, diabetes. They even said with the vaccine, they want to get it to the Black community first. Why? Oh, well, because they're higher at risk because they have more diabetes in their community. Really? I mean, then work on their diabetes.
Right.
Work on helping them for real.
Yes.
Something that where it won't just help them with COVID-19, it'll help them with all of their life. I mean, instead, now if it turns out to be bad, like some people are saying, oh, then you're gonna get the Blacks first. Is this like Tuskegee? Well, I mean, but 3 presidents are gonna take the vaccine. They're probably gonna take it.
Yes.
No, seriously, you believe that they're going to take the exact same. I mean, if they get in a line with a lot of Americans and they get randomly pulled out of the box, that's the only time I'm going to believe they're getting the same vaccine we are. Show me. I'm for
Yeah,
truth.
no,
Yeah.
it's absolutely. It's yeah, that when I remember seeing that last week or the week before that Bush, Clinton, and Barack Obama would take the vaccines in public. I'm like, so what? They're president. They're former presidents. You think that if it could be rigged, it wouldn't be? I mean, that kind of thing. And I'm not I'm not a conspiracy theorist either. But that hardly did anything to satisfy or to satiate my my fears
Exactly.
about it or skepticisms about
The
it.
man who sold us the Iraq War, Mr.
Yeah.
Weapons of Mass Destruction, I'm going to believe him on the vaccine. I mean, it doesn't matter. He can take it or not. That's his body. That's his choice. I'm not
Right.
saying I'm for or against the vaccine, but what I'm saying is it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me if he takes it or not. That's his body. And he has a different body system and immune response and so forth. Like I'm going to measure like you mentioned, Ed, it's a preventative thing. It's not a cure. I really feel like we need to be focusing more on the food industry, what we take in, and educate ourselves. And I really, really ask people to look into or think about the foods that they take every day. I know myself, as I get older, I have more inflammation in my body. And because of that, I watch more closely what I have to take. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I can swell up just at an intake of a certain, piece of like bread. If I have too much carbohydrates or something, I tend to swell up, and that's just my body response. So I have to be careful in what I take in and out. And if I feel like my body has more inflammation in it, I'm just going to take more like ginger or turmeric and so forth. I mean, Candace got me on a raspberry tea as well. So, stuff like that. Like, I mean, we just have to, I'm heavily always looking into things that are more beneficial for me now. And I think that's a good thing. I'm not gonna I feel like that's part of why I've been able to stay safe for all this long. I was out there campaigning, met a lot of people, even though we were in the outdoors environment, but I had my mask on, but still I was more at risk.
I got a funny story for you guys. Well, besides, I wanted to also say that like Barack Obama supposedly drank the water from Flint, Michigan. Oh, now I believe Flint, Michigan's water safe. You're not.
All right.
But I was at a board of directors meeting. I used to be on a bunch of board of directors of a bunch of different nonprofits, and I was on one, and we were at a doctor's mansion, and the bell rang. We were at the board of directors meeting, and the doorbell rang, and the doctor said, "Okay, we gotta go. It's the pizza. I'm gonna go get it." And he gets up, and one of the guys asked me what did I think about nutrition and vitamins, and I didn't know it, but he was trying to lure another guy into his vitamin business. But he knew that I had a health business. So I started explaining about how our soil's depleted and blah, blah, blah. And doctors don't know this and doctors don't know this. And just then the doctor came back with the pizza. And he sat on the table and he said, "Hannah." And as soon as he said Hannah, I looked up and I thought, oh my God, he's going to destroy me now because I'm talking about doctors, right? Oh my God, what did I do? I put my foot in my mouth. And he "Hannah, you're 100% right." And I just was kind of in shock. And I was like, what? And he said, in medical school, America has so many problems that we in medical school focused on learning how to handle those problems. And we glossed over nutrition and prevention. And that's where we really need to focus back again. Nutrition and prevention. And that's how European medicine right now, they're in the top 10 and we're ranked 37th because they concentrate on the front instead of the back. So.
Yeah, no, just to give more weight to what your story. When I lived in Portland, I worked at a hospital / medical school, so on and so forth. So I lived amongst a bunch of med students. And I asked them then, hearing what you were just said about the glossing over of nutrition, they're required to take 1 3-credit-hour nutrition class. Out of all that schooling, 1 class.
Mm.
I was like, really? But they spend, years learning how to slice and dice you, in case something bad goes on, but yeah, I was floored. I was like, wow, that sucks.
Okay.
That's why I'm really impressed by the movement in India, that the farmers are really taking up to the corporations. They've gone ahead and really protesting about the conditions that have evolved. And that kind of sends a sentiment throughout the world that this is probably where we are headed. I think America should sit up and take notice, because I feel like people are ready to revolt here anytime soon. If things don't start swinging and if they don't start working for the people, then that's eventually going to happen.
It is.
So it's just a good wake-up call, and a lot of people saying that the press isn't covering that issue enough. And a lot of spices come from India, and a lot of those spices are beneficial to people as well. So if they truly care about the pandemic, they would care about the products that are coming from overseas. None of those products are produced here locally. Again, I urge and I want Illinois to focus on being self-sustainable. We have every capability with the land here. Why are we always relying on exports and imports and stuff like that? We can do enough here.
You know that in India, it was 250 million people protesting. Where has there ever been a protest that big in the entire world? Never. And yet,
Nowhere.
did we see it on our news? We didn't see nothing. Just like we didn't see the Icelandic Revolution on our news either. In Iceland, in 2008, they had the same collapse we did, but they jailed their banksters, removed everybody from parliament, rewrote the constitution, and recovered in 2 years. You know why we don't see it on the news? They don't want to give us any ideas of what we need to do.
Yeah, it's true. It's a really unfortunate what's happened to farming in India. The Western style, commercial farming, what Monsanto has done to farmers over there. There's been hundreds of thousands of suicides of farmers in India over the last however long, because they've completely lost control of their farming, because Monsanto and their, they're patenting the biological seed, and you have to buy from them, and it corrupts the soil. And I can go on and on about how evil Monsanto is and what they've done. But it was so encouraging to see that news clip the other day. Yeah, at 250 million. I was like, wow. Absolutely unprecedented and absolutely warranted. And I'm really eager to see what happens, what comes out of it. I posted it on my Facebook page. I'm going to keep posting it, because like you said, nobody knows about it. This is huge. It's definitely huge. Alia, we were saying earlier about, Illinois being self-sustainable. It's completely possible. I mean, we're called a prairie state. And forgive me if I've said this before, but so at one point it was close to 70% of Illinois' land was prairie. Then commercial farming came along. Do you know how much of it now is considered prairie? From 70%? Anyone? Just a guess?
I think 40, 30.
0.01%.
Wow.
We've absolutely devastated the soil in this state. And the prairie soil was some of the most fertile soil in the world. It was beautiful. You can grow almost anything, well, besides tropical stuff because of the weather. But I mean, it's a travesty, and it's unbelievable that we've got 0.01% from 70. Are you kidding me? How the hell did that happen? Well, commercial farming happened.
Right.
You drive down the state. What do you see? Huge farmland. I'm staring at one out the window right there. It's awful. It's awful. But again, that's one of the reasons I'm meeting with Joyce Mason, that lady, sometime hopefully next week. But that's one of the reasons. So we'll see. I'll put the finger on the pulse and see where the Illinois legislator is at concerning these things.
Yeah, what you're talking about, Dave, is called monoculture crop farming. And you know that if they just took 0.3 of 1%, 0.3% of all the monoculture cropland and used it for vegetable and fruits,
Organic.
there would be no malnourishment. None.
Right.
What are we
Yeah.
doing? Where's our brains?
Yeah, and then all that ties into climate change and everything else, the corruption of the soil, because you need the soil to like absorb, certain amounts of carbon and that kind of thing, but not too much carbon, and the whole balance is just whacked. So yeah, it's really frustrating to see.
So the revolution starts here.
Yes, it does.
Yay!
Good. Our weekly collective sessions meeting. It's really nice. Yes, I enjoy it. Aaliyah, we have to wrap up soon.
Wrap up. Yeah, I was just noticing the time. So thank you for tonight. Well, for the session today. Thank you for all of your insights. I think this was a beneficial conversation. We're just echoing the sentiments of the people, what we hear. I mean, Ed deals with business, his tax, his own corporations, and other things. He's dealing with people at that level. And then we have David, who, he's worked in a bar. He comes across multifold types of people at the same time. He's seeing the business workers suffer as well, including the bar in which he works at. He runs a radio station. He comes across people that have something to say there about what's going on. And, the voice that we were talking about here today is not just, something that isn't real. We consider ourselves authentic people with the voice to give a platform to other people and be vocal for real causes. And then Candace also, she works within the restaurant-based industry. She's a media platform as well. She works in production company and so forth. I know she's been affected, impacted. She's had various shoots that were put on hold. They have compliance requirements when it comes to how many people they meet. And, everybody's feeling it. I myself, I have 2 daughters that are doing school via remote. I work for a corporation. So I know what it's like. And that's why we felt it was important to get a dialogue out there. We want the politicians to also take notice of what is going on right now and how the people really feel, because this is important to give the voice of the people and to have proper action be taken. I really am proud of all the Indians that are now protesting. I think that is phenomenal. I never saw that coming. I've never heard of anything like that since Gandhi. Okay. and
I want to know how they organized that whole thing. I mean, that's incredible.
They must have done it in silence or worked to make sure it happened, because I feel like Modi is a fascist regime, period.
You know what? To be honest with you, that is our salvation. See, the internet is being used to control us, but it's also the fastest way of communication.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's making change come exponentially fast.
Yes, it does. That's true.
Yes.
I mean, right now we're using the internet to give a voice as well. So thank you to AIA Inc. and TST Productions. We'll see you all next week.
Right, guys, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Peace out. Thank you.